Hi guys, so for today we're going to go over the history of France. So first is the Gaul period where over time Celtic tribes from Central Europe moved into the region of France, and when the Romans occupied the territory in the 2nd century BC, they named it Gaul. Julius Caesar, I might have mentioned it during history last semester, established full Roman control over Gaul in 51 BC, before Christ. But by 400 AD, Rome was in decline. So we also mentioned that in history as well, where before Jesus was born, the Roman Empire was becoming more and more prosperous. But hundreds of years after, it began to decline, and there were many different kingdoms. So Gaul was attacked by neighboring tribes, including Visigoth, Vandals, and the Germanic Franks, from which France would eventually get its name. In 843, a treaty created the territory of West Francia, which would later become France. So this is what kind of a person back in the days or back during the ancient gold period looks like. Kind of like Vikings, right? Celtic. So I want to show you guys some of the expansion, like the map. This is all hundreds of years before BC. You can see, remember where France was? It was this area right here, the Pentacle I mentioned, right? So it was being occupied by the Gauls, and pretty much Roman was here, but there was that expansion of the Celtic territory, or the Celtic rule over this European region. So Britain, this will be Spain, later it'll be Spain, Galatians, Eastern Celts. So this will be Eastern Europe. So this will be the Eastern Europe and Middle East. Okay, so over the next thousands of years, West Francia was ruled by a series of powerful kings. Several wars were fought over who would rule France, including the Hundred Years' War from 1337 to 1453. And then in 1789, hundreds of years later, a violent period of change called the French Revolution began, eventually ending in the overthrow of the monarchy. So I want to show you guys a couple of kings, okay, during this Renaissance or Middle Ages and Renaissance time. So the first king was Clovis the First. He reigned from 509 to 511. Clovis was the first to unite the Frankish tribes under one banner. Prior to his brief rule, 2 years, right, as king of the Franks, the territories had been governed by groups of chieftains. He consolidated power and ensured a hereditary monarchy, so he was the first one to establish France, or the Frankish tribes, as one country, and he also ensured that the kings will be followed by the family rule, kind of like a royalty. He established the royalty, basically, or monarchy. So monarchy means just one family, one power ruling over the entire nation or kingdom. And we have also Louis the 14th. He is also very famous. He's one of the most famous French kings, and he reigned from 1643 to 1715. The undefeatable Louis XIV styled himself as the Sun King, and is possibly one of the most famous French kings. His creation, the Palace of Versailles, moved the seat of power away from Paris into the countryside, where he had total control over his courtiers and nobility. So the people in his court, basically, working for him. Not necessarily government, but people in that council and everyone. Louis XIV was the longest reigning monarch in France and held the throne for 72 years, quite a bit of time. So this is the Palace of Versailles, or you call Chateau de Versailles. I can't really say it well, but Chateau means palace. And the palace did exist before him with his father, but he was the one that made the palace it is today. He pretty much remodeled the whole thing and made it where he moved pretty much a capital into the countryside. Okay, next we have Napoleon Bonaparte. A general during the French Revolution, he later declared himself the leader of France in 1799 after the French Revolution. He began a campaign of wars with neighboring countries and built a large French empire that ruled over much of the continental Europe. But France's domination in Europe came to an end in 1815. So that was about 16 years when Napoleon was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo. So this is a really, really famous painting of Napoleon. Very majestic, very handsome, very powerful, but this is a more realistic picture of what he looks like. So he's rumored to be really short. If you guys haven't heard that before, he was about maybe 5'2", but in reality, he was actually 5'6". So he's just a little bit taller than me. I'm 5'5". So just imagine Napoleon. A lot of French people actually aren't that tall, but just know that there's been a lot of rumors about historical figures, and he's one of them. So this is what he actually looks like, and maybe that's how tall he is. However, more recently, France actually suffered a lot from both World War I and World War II in the more recent years in the 20th century. It has since emerged, though, as an important and prosperous world power. Over the years, France has been through many political crises. Its current government is a combination of presidential and parliamentary systems. The president is elected by the people, like us, and is a head of state. A prime minister, however, is chosen by the president, who works with the elected parliament to pass laws. So we don't have a prime minister in the US, but a lot of the European countries do have a prime minister. So that's it for the history of France. And for today's assignment, you will just answer this question. What was the name of the most famous French king? So you might have to go back to find his name. If you already know, then just type it in the comment. So yes, leave this in your private comment so I can see it, because I don't really want to make another Google Doc just for that name. But simply type in the name of the most famous French king, and then you're done.